Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I'm here today to rank all 8 of Sharon Tate's movies. And first off, obviously, she was basically the best part of everything that she was ever in. Even the worst ones, the highlights of the movie are her and then maybe one other thing, and that's it. Everything else was really bad in her worst movies, which I'm looking at them now and I'm like, ugh. I watched some really bad movies and then some really good movies as well. So, number 8 is Don't Make Waves. Even just hearing the title alone to this movie and just seeing it, oh god, this movie's bad. It is really, really bad. It is definitely one of the worst movies that I've ever seen. It's very similar to Licorice Pizza, where the first half, it seems like maybe there's some potential here for a good movie, but then as the movie goes on, nothing really happens. And you're just sitting there wondering, like, why is this movie? What is this movie? Where is this movie? How is this movie? It is terrible in almost every way, shape, or form. The title alone, Don't Make Waves. What does that even mean? I mean, it's so bizarro, this movie. It's basically like a time capsule for, like, the Malibu Beach, like, scene, I guess, because you got all the bodybuilding going on, and she's in that area with one of the bodybuilders, and the movie is basically all about this jackass, and he is probably the worst main character out of all 8 of her movies. That's another reason why it's in last place. He has no charisma at all, this Tony Curtis. I mean, he's good in other movies, but in this movie, wow, he's terrible. He's a horrible, horrible person, and it's the whole movie is just him scheming and scamming, kind of like Licorice Pizza, where they keep on having all the different business ventures and all the different things that they have going on, just random things. It's just randomness. But at least Licorice Pizza was okay. It was a lot better than this. I mean, this movie was terrible. And then in the second half, he comes up with this whole scheme so that he can get with Malibu, played by Sharon, and he can steal her away from Reg Lewis. And I will say that I felt like, for a bodybuilder, Reg Lewis was the best part of the movie. I felt like he was actually the best character, because he was like the only character who was like a real person. It felt like everybody else in the movie was not really a full fleshed out character. And yeah, I hated it. And the ending, the whole ending thing where the house that he gets, this beach house, it's all about it like going off a cliff, and it's basically like a Christopher Nolan movie, like Inception, watching the house go off the cliff, and all the characters are like trying to survive. Like, it's really, really bizarre. And so yeah, that's the worst movie. I would never watch this movie again. I think another thing that's terrible is that someone lost their life to make this movie. The studio had this whole shady thing of like, they shot all this skydiving footage, but it wasn't good enough, and it just wasn't usable conveniently. And so they sent out this guy, and he died shooting footage for them, and magically the footage was salvageable, and he just washed up ashore, and they don't even know what happened to him, but they probably do. And I just think that that's terrible too. The fact that somebody had to die so that they could make this really shitty movie. That's just terrible. I will also say, too, that, this character of Malibu, she was the inspiration for the Malibu Barbie. And so this is really what Barbie should have been like in her movie. When they made the Barbie movie, they should have watched this movie, suffered through it, so that they could see like what Barbie really should be like, instead of doing what they did in that terrible anti-men movie. So number 7 is The Fearless Vampire Killers. Just even saying the name alone makes me cringe. This movie is atrocious. It is really, really bad. It is barely even a movie. I read that there was a lot of inspiration taken from Kiss of the Vampire. And see, it's funny, because when I was younger, and this was the first movie of hers that I ever saw. I saw it as a kid. I hated it as a kid, to the point of where I literally was like trying to make a sequel to make up for how bad the first movie was. Like, I was trying to make a sequel all by myself at home. Like, because that's how disappointed I was. Like, I never had that happen before, guys. Like, that is how bad this movie is. It made me, as like a 12-year-old kid, get so pissed off that immediately, literally right after the movie ended, I was working on a sequel. That's how bad this is. Like, it's that bad. And later on, too, I saw Kiss of the Vampire last year. Kiss of the Vampire is, like, such a better movie than this, it's not even funny. And I really hate that, like, they took Kiss of the Vampire and they made it shit. There's no jokes at all in this whole movie. Like, the jokes are terrible. The jokes are not even really jokes. The only joke is this movie. That's the joke. The characters barely talk throughout the whole movie. There's barely any dialogue. They're not real characters. Especially the main two. I mean, they're supposed to be the leads of the movie. And most of the movie, they don't talk. They don't have any back and forth. They don't have any good lines. It's terrible. The villain is underutilized. Sharon is kidnapped 20 minutes into the movie and then disappears for like the whole thing, and then comes back at the end and dances and then escapes with them. And it's like, this movie is just like a pile of shit. Like, there is literally nothing good about this movie. If you like seeing her in red hair, I guess that's something. The thing is, like, she wasn't even supposed to be in this movie. It was supposed to be some other actress, like, all the way up until production, and then he switched over to her, and then he stole her away from Jay. And so, like, this movie just fucking sucks. I hate this movie. I really wish I could put it in last place, but the only thing that I'll say is that it's a very beautiful looking movie, and it is a little bit more of a movie than Don't Make Waves. It has a point to it. It has a beginning, middle, and end. So, and then also the music, the opening theme is good. Pretty much everything is good except for the story, the characters, and the dialogue. Ugh. God, I hate that movie. Number 6 is Barabbas. Now, this movie doesn't even have her in it for more than like 2 seconds, and you'll blink and you'll miss it. This is a movie that it's kind of a creepy movie because it's all about sacrificing, and it's all about like the benefits of sacrificing. You have this main character, Barabbas, and he is spared from being put on the crucifix. So basically, he is one of the most badass characters in the Bible, if not the most badass character, because he got out of it, and out of luck, out of all of Jesus's followers voting for him, because they knew that he wanted to be sacrificed himself. And so, like, just that alone makes this character like one of the coolest characters on this list, because he escaped and he got to do whatever he wanted and have a second chance and redeem himself. And that was kind of the point, was that he would get to redeem himself. But then, throughout the movie, there's this really creepy agenda that's going on where you have all these other characters, like his former wife, who he likes to abuse her. She gets stoned to death. She sacrifices herself for her religion. And then later in the movie, he meets up with this guy and they're working in the mines together, and he sacrifices himself for Christianity. And the whole movie's like Barabbas constantly escaping death. And then at the end of the movie, all of a sudden, he's like, well, I'm going to sacrifice myself now because that's the right thing to do. And it's like, no, it's really not. Like, the point of this character was supposed to be that he redeemed himself and that he would get a second chance at life. But instead of that, the movie is like saying that no, he should never have had a second chance at life. He should have been put on the crucifix too, because he's a bad man. And it's like, no, fuck that. That's stupid. But still, it is a very entertaining movie. It's a very well-made movie. The highlight is definitely the fight between him and then the other gladiator guy at the end. It's a really, really intense and awesome final battle between a hero and villain. But yeah, it's just not really high up on the list because she's barely in it. And it's also a creepy movie. It's very creepy. Like, the whole movie is basically telling people that they should go die for religion. Like, if you believe in if you really, really believe in your religion, well, you should prove it by going out and getting yourself killed, because that's what Barabbas did at the end of the movie. And it's like, no thanks, that's not right at all. So number 5 is Valley of the Dows. This movie, I think, is one of the more overrated movies on the list, but at the same time, it's at a weird place in history because it's become misinterpreted as like a Me Too agenda movie, which is really kind of hilarious because it just shows that, like, any movie that has like a female character get into some sort of compromising position and some sort of a troublesome time, I don't know what to describe it as, but any movie that has that is automatically labeled as a Me Too movie now, because it's like, see, all men are evil because, you know, women, they have to go through this and they have to go through that. And it's like, that's not what this movie is about at all. This movie is about drug addiction, and it's about women and what they'll do to get into Hollywood and why it changes them and turns them into miserable people. And it also really how Hollywood changes you, whether you're a man or a woman. Like, that's the thing that people miss with this movie now, is that the message of the movie is that if you get into Hollywood, that you shouldn't change, and you shouldn't become a different person and do things that you wouldn't have done in your regular life. You know, that's the whole message of the movie, and it's something that, you know, Sharon really believed in. And this movie, though, it was not it. You have one main character. I can't even remember what she looked like. She was average at best. And, I mean, her character was trash. She didn't even do anything the whole movie. She had this stupid story, and then at the end, she gets addicted to drugs for like 2 seconds, and then she just runs back home and everything's magically fine. Her character sucked. And then you have Patty Duke. she did a really good job, which I don't know why people are pretending like she did a bad job at acting, and she did a very good job. She gets addicted to drugs and loses her husband, and she's just a loser at the end, and she has nothing. And her story sucks, her character sucks, and I would never watch it again. Sharon's character, she gets with this singer guy, and then he gets some sort of a disease where he loses his memory, and then he gets put in a home, and then she's got to get an abortion, and so then she does drugs and she kills herself. And now she was the best part of the movie. She was the best actor in the movie, period. She was literally like the only saving grace of the movie. If she wasn't in this movie, I would have given it a really bad grade. That's for sure. But sadly, this movie is just not it. As I said, it's not really the greatest movie ever. But it is also not a Me Too movie. It is just it feels like 1960s Oscar bait, where you have all the cliches, you have all the tropes. You got drug addiction, abortion, fame changing you, you know, just all the typical stuff. A love partner getting sick and dying, or getting sick to where they're a vegetable. You know, seen that a million times. Just, you know, been there, done that. Number 4 is Eye of the Devil. Now, this movie was really tailored for her. It was really not a movie. It was a very creepy spell of a movie. It was very evil. It was very unsettling. It was really, really evil. But it was a thoroughly entertaining journey. And it's one of the better cult movies that I've seen. She was the second or third best, I would probably say second best actor in the movie with her performance. The main character is actually really good, and yeah, it's a pretty good horror spell, but it's really kind of weird to watch because it's very clear what's going on behind the scenes, and it's not really a good thing. Number 3 is the Americanization of Emily. Now, I don't even know where she is in this movie. Honestly, like, I don't even know. But the thing is that this movie is so good that it just has to be up this high. I think it's one of the best movies ever made. In fact, it's probably like in my top 10 or top 20 best movies ever. And the writing is so good. The characters are so good. The dialogue, it's just perfect. And it's like, this is a movie where this is what happens when you have a good script. You have a movie like this. You know, there's so many movies that, you know, they could be great movies if they had a good script. This is one of those movies that has a perfect script, and so that's why it succeeded. Unlike a lot of other movies where they're like, you know, let's put all this money into the actors and into the CGI and into the sets and the lighting and the effects and the, you know, this and the that. But let's not put any money into getting a good writer. Let's use that writer who made that other shitty movie. Oh, that guy who wrote shitty Transformers movies. Oh, let's use him. He made terrible movies. Let's see if he can make another terrible movie. Oh, that one writer who made that one terrible movie. Oh, let's give him another chance so that he can make another terrible movie. Yeah! That's not how it used to work in Hollywood. Because if it did, you would never have had this movie, that's for sure. I mean, this movie is a masterpiece on every level. It's just unfortunate that she's not in it at all, basically. Like, I don't even know where she is. So, that's why it's at number 3. Number 2 is 12 Plus 1. This was a really good movie. I really enjoyed this movie a lot. The story about having to find the chair that has the jewels in it, and there's 13 chairs, and you have the main guy and her going on an adventure all over the world. It's just really, really thoroughly entertaining. It's only an hour and 30 minutes, but it could have been 5 hours and I would have been happy. The only downside to this movie is that there's some terrible editing, especially near the end. And the ending is very terrible and unsatisfying because her character abandons the main character so that she can get with this other guy who we didn't give a fuck about. He was a terrible character, and there was no need for her to get with that guy at the end and to stay in Italy. I hated that part of the movie. But other than that, she was once again really, really good. And I would say, like, out of all the movies that came before it, you know, if you want to watch a movie where she is in it for the most part, you know, you don't want to watch a movie like Don't Make Waves where she's like an afterthought and she's just there to look pretty and to show her body. You know, you want to watch a movie where she's showing her talent and her skills as an actress. And if you want that, you watch this movie. There's also a really good part in the movie, my favorite part of the movie, where they're having this Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde stage play, and Orson Welles is playing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and it's just really, really hilarious. It's awesome. It's fun. It was so good, and it was such a great choice to watch on Thanksgiving, actually, because it was a good movie for the most part, so I'm glad that I watched it on Thanksgiving. But number 1, to no one's surprise, I mean, when Margot Robbie played her in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I believe that she said that this was her favorite movie of hers as well. And it's not surprising. The Wrecking Crew is easily her best movie. I would say it is a perfect movie. It is one of my all-time favorite movies. I could watch this movie anytime, any day, and love it, and enjoy it, and have fun with it. And it's all because of her. This movie is like a mid-James Bond rip-off movie, a parody movie. But the key ingredient is her. Is Freya, or Freya, however you want to say it, because I think they call her Freya in the movie, and that's not how you say it, you say Freya. Freya's character is one of the greatest characters in film history, because she carried this movie on her back to where you could see it on her face the whole movie. It was hurting her to carry this movie. I mean, this movie wouldn't have been shit if she wasn't in it. She saved this movie. She was the greatest thing ever in this movie. Every single thing that she did was genius. She was the funniest person in the movie. All the best laughs came from her. She was the most likable character in the movie. Probably one of the top most likable characters in film history. And she managed to save this movie with this washed up Dean Martin, who was just phoning it in, not putting any effort, looked like Andy Griffith in the Colored Seasons, the Andy Griffith Show. And she carried his ass to victory. And for that, I will say that is her best movie, because it shows that if she had managed to live longer and she had been in more movies, then there would have been a lot more times like this where there was a bad movie, potentially, and she would save it because she was that good of an actress. And she is the highlight, clearly. The reason why you want to watch this movie is not because you want to watch Dean Martin. You want to watch this movie for her. And to me, that is what makes for somebody's best movie, is that you want to watch it for them. You don't want to watch it for any other reason. You know, like Eye of the Devil might be a really good movie, but you don't really want to watch that movie just for her. You want to watch that movie because it's a horror cult movie and it's an evil movie, you know, whatever. You want to study it. I don't know. But you, with The Wrecking Crew, you want to watch this movie so you can watch her. I would also say she looks the best in this movie. You know, there's so many moments where she looks really, really, really good. Because she has all these different disguises. She's got like the nerdy, mousy girl disguise where she's got the glasses and the hair's up and everything. And then she's got one where she's got this dark wig on and it's a terrible wig. And then she's got, of course, her normal look. And just all of these different disguises look amazing. So this is her best movie. And so anyways, please like this video and comment and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.